What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome. My name is Lord PeteyTV. Now we're going to go into the Ransack of Drakheim or Drakheim, whichever you prefer to call it. So anyway, we're going to end up showing you here. This is our regular team that we're kind of working on. We were leveling our new hunter, so I want to kind of show everybody what we end up doing. Since this is the Paragon 7, I should say Paragon Capstone. So as you can see here, we're going to end up pulling those first couple of groups. We're going to target the big guy that I'm blanking on his name right now, but we ended up killing him, and then we end up making sure we're interrupting as many of the big Ooga Booga explosions from those Arcanists, and then we're going to go here to the next group, and we're going to end up pulling these next Ashen Arcanists, and we're going to make sure we're targeting them. And we're going to try to stay close to each other because of the other guys coming around getting those noggin attacks. So we're going to end up pulling this here. We're going to end up DPSing everybody down. Pretty nice and easy. I'm going to try to dispel as much as I can. And we're going to go from here. We're going to go right into this big group here. So the big group here, now the thing that most people don't realize is that you cannot be moving. The more you move, the flames are going to end up stacking on the players. The best thing I could tell you as myself, being a Sylvie character, is placing it the blue butterfly on your tank. You're going to want to make sure you don't move and you just DPS it down. Here we end up doing another DPS. What we normally do is I usually go on the inside and everybody goes on the other side. And as you can see, the blue spheres are going around from the Mystics. You want to make sure you're DPSing those guys down, so you keep that out of the way. And then after that, we're going to go into the boss. Now with the boss, the first portion of him is going to be Frost. So if you end up killing that outside boss, you're going to deal with the Frost first. You're going to want to move around to make sure those Frost debuffs do not go on your feet. You want to make sure you're consistently healing your tank. If you get a Frost Tomb, you want to get really close to the fire. It's going to end up clearing you. I was too close and I was getting burned. If you're close enough, what'll end up happening is it'll end up just taking off the frost on the outside. Now you're going to end up continuing to DPS it down. You're going to see our tank is kind of moving little by little backwards to make sure that those debuffs happen. When you're high enough level and you're like farming for a while, you can actually stack in a couple of those. See how the Frost Tomb comes burning right off? And here we're just going to continue to DPS it down, and we're going to end up getting through this, and we're going to continue to the next area. So just keep an eye on what's going on because there are a lot of interesting things on this. So we end up pulling that pull there on the right. We pull those groups and this here, and we kind of pull everything together. And you want to make sure you're targeting the Arcanists with the interrupts, and you're going to try to make sure you are DPSing those guys down first. The Reaver is always the big priority. If you have a big weapon, you can end up usually one-shotting those things if you have the right skills for it at this point. And you're going to end up DPSing this group down. And you're going to get chains because you're going to be careful of those because of the slavers. So you want to make sure you're hugging your friends. And you're going to get through that. Now you're going to go through this pull. Pulls all three of these groups together. You want to be really, really careful because this pull can get very, very dicey. You got to make sure you're interrupting the Annihilates and the big Ooga Booga Flames because those Ooga Booga Flames will really, really hurt unless they're going on your tank, which we got lucky with. Now we're going to end up pulling these three groups here. See, the bonk noggins really do a lot of damage. That's why you want to usually stay together. I ended up being stupid. If you don't interrupt certain abilities, as you saw there, we just got a one-shot. So that's why we keep telling people, make sure you are interrupting. And then from there, we're going to go to the next part. And here are the double Reavers. The double Reavers, you want to really target one and burn it down. You want to make sure your healer is removing the dispel as you're going through here. And you're going to want to DPS down as much as you possibly can on those two Reavers. So the Reavers are really going to do a decent amount of damage. So you might as well just kind of focus and get through that. And then after that, we go right onto the boss. Now, we usually have one person stay far away. That way, they can end up taking the chains and putting them on the far side. And then with the Arctic winds, you can somewhat bait them. So you got to be careful with that. And then the grasping pillar you got to be careful of. And the biggest thing is just dodging. Most of the damage is going to be on the tank unless you are going to do something stupid, which I'm pretty sure I do something stupid. But most of the time, if you are dodging perfectly, all the damage is on the tank. So I leave my blue butterfly on the tank, and I'm just going to continue to DPS down, trying to keep those Arctic winds away as much as I possibly can. And we're sitting at about 30%. And as you can see, a lot of stuff starts coming in really, really close. There's some Arctic winds. You got to be careful of that. And we're about at 15%. There's a grasp pillar. Another one on the far side. And you're just going to want to make sure you're watching where you're stepping. And making sure you're not going to get pulled in to any of these. And make sure you're DPSing. There you go. That's done. We're going to take this group here and this group on the right. It's going to use his defensives and pull through there. And as you can see, they just get melted very, very quickly because we end up using our cooldowns here and not on the other boss. We go through there, and then we're going to continue forward. We pull 2 groups here. We've tried pulling more than 2, and it seems to get a little dicey. So we end up pulling 2 here, DPSing this group down, and then we pull that padding group into the next group. So I keep trying to make sure that I have my heels down on rotations too for this. And we're going to end up continuing to DPS down the groups. And that's down. And then we're kind of just sitting there waiting for the tank because he's waiting for the pack to get a little closer. He ends up getting that pack, pulling these guys, and pulling the next group up top and the next group up here. Now, the reason for that is because we've learned that we have enough DPS and damage to do that. I would not recommend doing that on your standard pull. I would recommend actually splitting that group up. It will definitely make your life a million times easier. So we end up DPSing this group down. And it's not too bad. We leave that patrol that's going back and forth alone. And we get this close group here as we're going through. So we're ending up trying to DPS this group down as much as we possibly can. Making sure we're doing all the interrupts so nobody gets one-shotted. And then we're going to continue forward to the next 2 packs. We pull this group here into the next group on the right. He's using Grand Melee, so nobody's really taking that crazy amount of damage. Get that far interrupt, and we pull it in. What we end up wanting to do here is we want to make sure you take out that big shadow first, because he is going to do that pulse. So we end up taking that down. And he's got that fear. Try to make sure that fear doesn't affect us. Killed everything but the Reaver. Reaver goes down, and we're going to go right into the boss. Now, the boss is going to have some really, really, really weird things going on here, but we'll show you to him. So, the revelations, you want to get really, really close to the boss. Everybody's going to want to stack, and you want to really make sure everyone is topped off. The lasers, you want to just spread out. Make sure you don't kill anybody. If you get hit with more than one, you're going to die. As you can see, we are geared, and we're still getting half of our health taken off. Dark rituals coming around. The way you do this is you look at the totems, and then you say, what is missing? So those 3 totems didn't have the axe. We took down the axe. We ended up going on to the boss again, and Revelation is coming out once again. So everyone really needs to get into the Revelation. Cider doesn't have enough HP to actually live through the Revelations. So we have to try to do it with one less person, which isn't too bad. And we end up DPSing the boss and killing him, and there we go. Paragon done.